Welcome to the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast. Tune in every Thursday as we share inspirational stories from the world's greatest creators, entrepreneurs, and go-getters about how they've turned life's lemons into lemonade. And now, here's your host of Lemonade Stand Stories, Charan Prabhakar.
All right, guys, I'm rolling with my good friend Jeff Harmon, who, oh man, I've never met a guy that looks better in a hoodie, or not in a hoodie, in like, you don't even know what you call those things anymore. Like
yeah, I just wear it when I haven't, like, I always shave my head like every week, but if I haven't shaved my head for a while, then I put on my hoodie more.
Yeah, well,
or if it's cold. Today's cold.
It's chilly, man, and I don't understand. And apparently tomorrow it's supposed to snow. By the way, if you guys are watching this, I am posting in a week, but it's actually April 15th when I'm filming this. So
if it's really warm, that's
really warm. Just know that it was freezing when we did this. Just know that my heater's going on. So Jeff and I, we've been friends for a little while. We worked on I actually met Jeff on an Aura brush project years and years ago, actually. And then we lost touch and then reconnected during the days of VidAngel when we've been doing that. And we'll get into all that stuff. But I mean, he's pretty much a legend, you guys. He's pretty much a legend. If you don't know this already, you should now. Now he has done all kinds of stuff in the world of marketing, helping Aura Brush grow big. And then, he was a founder of the Harmon brothers, which, if you've seen any of those commercials, like from like Poopery, Squatty Potty, all done by the Harmon brothers. And then Jeff went on to create VidAngel with his brother Neil. And am I lying in any of these things, Jeff?
No, they're all right.
This is all accurate.
I just think it's funny that the only ones you could remember are the poop ones.
Those made a huge impression on me. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's been awesome, and I really got to see and it's been cool working with you, Jeff, because we've been working on a project, and as we have been about it, I've noticed your brain, the way it works and the way it works regarding marketing and stuff is just unbelievable. And I've loved learning from you because, I make movies and TV shows, and I feel like I know how to do that. I know how to produce and create content. But when it comes to marketing, I don't know anything, or distribution. I feel like such a novice. And so even in those initial meetings when we were talking about how VidAngel was formed and how you market and what you guys do to market, I was just blown away because a lot of filmmakers, I feel, are kind of in the same boat. They may make an awesome piece of content and all that stuff, and they put it on like a trailer on Facebook, which is what I tend to do. And it might get like a couple hundred views, maybe a few likes here and there. And that's kind of the extent. And they're like, all right, well, I guess we're releasing it on Apple, or iTunes or something like that. And hopefully people buy it. And you're like, well, that doesn't work. And it's sad because so many filmmakers I know, raise money. And by so many people I know, I'm one of them. So I'm totally guilty of this. Raise money, go make a project, don't really know how to market the project. And I know I personally have been screwed over by distribution companies in the past. And as a result, no money came back. And we're a little hosed, but I've always felt like you guys have kind of figured out that formula, the key ingredient to help you succeed. And as a result, so many of the companies you've marketed for have made millions and millions of dollars. And VidAngel is thriving right now, which is amazing. And so we'll talk about that. But Jeff, let's talk about kind of your journey and how you got even into marketing and all that stuff. Because you're a BYU student, correct? Or you were a BYU student?
That's right. I graduated from BYU.
Cool.
And I didn't ever expect to be in film production world. Film for production and distribution. I grew up in Idaho. Our nearest neighbor was a quarter mile away. I'm the middle of 9 kids.
Wow. Okay.
And we grew up super, super poor. And I saw the kind of the wealthier people in the neighborhood were like dentists and doctors and lawyers, and thought maybe I'd be an attorney or something. And I now that I've spent a lot of time in courtrooms, I'm glad I didn't become an attorney.
Yeah.
I'm really glad.
Nah.
But so we then kind of came from that background. And to give you an idea of the culture of the family, and I think this is important for today, because right now we're moving into a global recession like we've never seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
The numbers are uncharted territory, even by like Great Depression standards and stuff. The number of people getting laid off, the number of people.
Are you talking about worldwide, or are you talking about U.S. alone, or what
U.S. alone, the numbers that are going to come out are unheard of. The ones that will be reported here shortly. But in 2008, and now it's also unheard of the way it happened. I mean, it's very artificial. We just shut down. So hopefully,
it's very, very
hopefully we can recover at least somewhat, because otherwise this is it's going to be pretty rough. But one thing that I have been thinking about is that what our family did, because we have very close ties as brothers and sisters, the 9 kids. And in 2008 or sometime around there, we met together and did a family council.
Okay.
And we said, okay, who has toxic debt in the family? Who's been totally messed up by this to the point that you owe money on something that has no value anymore? Meaning that, and we had some family members that had issues go on with properties they had owned or businesses. And so we got together as a family and just said, all right, how do we join together to pay off the toxic debts? Okay. And then we did what we called a mercy fund. Okay. And the different siblings, just when there was no expectation that you had to pay into it, there was nothing. It was just, and there's no expectation you get anything out. You just put money in and then it gets paid towards debts that are toxic.
Wow. Okay.
And it took a few years, but we got everybody out of the hole and got it into a better position. And that's just something to be thinking about as I guess maybe as people are going through some pretty rough times.
Yeah.
But and the key is that there's no expectations whatsoever, and there had to be a non-selfish motivation. But then during that period, I was finishing up school at BYU, and in my last day of my last class at school, I met this guy named Dr. Bob, and he had created a tongue cleaner. And essentially what it is, it scrapes your tongue and cleans the bad breath off your tongue, because that's where your bad breath comes from, is your tongue.
Interesting.
And I thought it was an interesting product. And the people that were doing the research on it, the team in the class, I didn't know Dr. Bob yet. They got up and they were like, 92% of people wouldn't even buy this unless it's inside a store. So you need to go make a deal with Procter and Gamble or someone like that. And I there was just something about it that intrigued me. And I started saying, well, 8% is still millions of people. I don't know why you wouldn't just focus on online still. And
now at this point, had there been huge marketing campaigns online?
There had never been one on YouTube.
There never been. Okay.
Yeah. And it was, so I went and tried to sell it, but with AdWords, I tried to sell it with all kinds of ideas, but I had a roommate that was in the film program at BYU, Devin Graham.
Yeah.
Devin Supertramp.
He's a buddy. He's great.
Yeah. He introduced me to the film world. He's the one who Devin, my path switched because of Devin.
Wow. Okay.
And so we went and we made a commercial for this tongue cleaner. Devin, Joel Ackerman, and I did this commercial, and Austin Craig.
Yeah.
A lot of people know all those names. And we shot it in a pool room, and we shot this commercial for $800 to sell this tongue cleaner. And then YouTube came out within a very short period of time of that, they came out with their new ad system to buy ads on YouTube. They had never done ads before. And because they just did it on a bid, at the beginning, it was like less than a penny per view.
Wow. Okay.
So I jumped on there, and we were like, nobody was adopting their system. And we jumped on there, and we were getting these views for nothing. And then suddenly we could spend money, and we would make money back, probably just because it was so freaking cheap to buy ads.
Yeah.
But and so we started buying up everything. And I learned later that YouTube stopped. They made it to where no buyer could buy more than 60% of the inventory on YouTube because of us, because we were buying too much inventory.
Yeah, it's amazing. You like
So,
totally that trend.
so we were being seen everywhere, and
Yeah.
we were selling millions of dollars of these tongue cleaners, and that kind of launched my world into video marketing. And we built a web series called Diary of a Dirty Tongue. It was the very first of its kind, way before its time. Got millions and millions of viewers, hundreds of thousands of followers. And Dave Ackerman and Joel Ackerman. Dave and Joel were the writers, and Dave was the tongue. And they would it was like a daily vlog from this tongue talking about his life. And then it had like a loose connection to Orbrush because the character is a giant dirty tongue.
Yeah, yeah. And
he's the spokesperson for Orbrush, but he lives in a grungy apartment, basement apartment, and clearly doesn't get paid.
Yeah,
the mascot for our company.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that series is still very good, and you can go find it on YouTube. But it's got some really classic moments. But the that series is probably done better than almost any brand series out there on this concept of doing like a web series around a brand. And it was it was almost a decade before the ones that have come out more recently. And then
that basically really skyrocketed that company, correct? The Orbrush.
Yeah. The web series and in our ad buying, the organic and the other. We got into Walmart, we got into Boots in the UK, we got into like 20 different countries.
Wow.
And that company became pretty big. And during that, also another roommate of mine, Ricky Ray Butler, who does Brand Entertainment Network, he jumped in a 15-passenger van I rented from a friend. Okay. And we drove down to VidCon. We rented this van for like $800. I don't remember how much it was, but we put the entire marketing team inside the van. Ricky said, "Can I come along?" And he came down, and we were roommates. And that's where he, it was after that trip that he started what he's doing today, which is Brand Entertainment Network, which was bought by Bill Gates.
Yeah.
And works down in LA, and they run this gigantic influencer company.
Well, he's actually working with my company right now. So.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I love Ricky.
So
great.
Lots of connections, and so we met when we were at Orbrush, and I think it was probably a casting call, maybe. I'm trying to remember.
Well, I think I actually shot something with you guys. I don't even know when it came out or something.
You may have been in some.
I wasn't inside the tongue. I don't think that was me, but I think I was interacting with him.
Yes, you were interacting with the tongue.
Yeah, I think Devin hit me up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, can you come in?"
Devin or Jake Shores, maybe. Jacob Shores.
One of those guys.
He also was the producer on and the DP on it.
Yeah.
And so then with Orbrush, there was myself, my brother Neil. I pulled him in. I pulled my brother Daniel in, who was working at ad agencies out in Chicago. Then after Orbrush, we decided that, we had a very small share in Orbrush. It really launched our career, but we weren't that big of owners. So we decided to move on, and we went and started Harmon Brothers, which is an ad agency. And the name Harmon Brothers was not intentional. It sounds like a car dealership, but or grocery store.
Yeah.
And but the way that happened is Poopery had contacted us.
Okay. And
we signed a deal with them right as we were leaving Orbrush. So we wanted that deal to be there. And then they're like, "Hey, we need to send you this big check. Where do we send it?" And we're like, "Oh, we don't have a." Yeah. We don't. Well, because we had signed an agreement.
Yeah.
Like a verbal agreement.
Okay.
And we have this like letter of intent, but we didn't have a company name or anything. And so we're up late at night, and we're like, "What do we call the company? Because we need to take a check in a bank account."
Yeah.
And we called it Harmon Brothers.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, I've gotten all the attention from Orbrush. If we called it Harmon Brothers, maybe that would divert a little bit of the attention from me and show that, we work together on these projects. But it wasn't intended to be a long-term name. And then Poopery, 6 weeks later, we launched it, and it took us 6 weeks from writing to creation. We launched Poopery, and it exploded. And then we started winning bunches of awards, and they just said Harmon Brothers Ad Agency wins this award, and Harmon Brothers Ad Agency wins this award, and we're like, okay, well, I guess we're Harmon Brothers. Yeah, so that's where the name comes from. We always feel a little bit embarrassed about how narcissistic it appears. It looks like a law firm or a car dealership or something. But the nice thing is that I'm one of 6 brothers, so now I can just swap anybody out.
It's Harmon Brothers. It's the one that we adopted,
Yeah. No, well, and now everybody, like, they're the team members and stuff. They call themselves like Harmon Sisters or Harmon, whatever. It's just a bunch of everybody's just adopted into the family.
Yeah.
So that was an accident, but then we created Poopery. We created we did I remember we did Squatty Potty with the pooping unicorn.
Yep.
And then there was a lady around the time we did Purple Mattress commercial, the big one with Goldilocks that got like a bazillion views.
Yeah, it's huge.
With Mallory and the glass dropping, we did that one. And this lady calls me from the Washington Post magazine, and she's interviewing me, and she's like, how is it that your team is able to hit these really, really sensitive topics and not go over the line? That was the question. And she interviewed me. She interviewed my siblings. She interviewed Dr. Bob. It was like a 2-week research project she did. Really good reporter. And she made a statement in her final article that was really interesting, where she said, perhaps in order to know the boundaries of society, to be able to ride those boundaries, you need to be acutely aware of where they are. And she's like, and these guys are Latter-day Saint brothers from Idaho, farm boys.
Yeah.
And they know where the lines are. Like, they know where the lines are of appropriate and not appropriate. And she's like, if you live on the other side of the line, that line's so far behind you that you don't know where it is anymore. You don't know how to ride it.
Interesting.
She's like, but if you live on the side of the line that you don't cross it, then you know exactly where it is.
It's like the edge of the cliff,
it affects you.
It's the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
Like, don't jump off, but where can you go?
Yeah. That you know where the line is, which allows you to ride there. And she said, and it's allowed them to make edgier commercials than the guys in Madison Avenue. Meaning they're truly edgier. They get to the edge, while everybody else who's making commercials about this type of stuff just jumps right off the cliff.
Just jumps off. Yeah. And they don't hit,
Yeah. And everybody has seen. And so I thought that was really interesting. Which is, and another question people ask is, why do we keep our ad agency, which is one of the hottest ad agencies in the world right now? Why do we keep it in Utah? And that part of that is because we want to hire people that know where those lines are. And because we do content that we'll be proud of. So we built the ad agency, and then shortly after that, we had this. Well, we had the idea quite a bit before. When we were building the ad agency, actually, Neil and I had this big list of companies that we thought were good opportunities and interesting to us that we had thought of over the years. And we went through them all and ranked them. And we had 2, an ad agency and this other concept at the top. Have you ever read the book, The User Method?
I haven't, no.
It's a really good book. I can't remember the author's name right now. It's really good on Audible, actually. But the user method, and basically the concept is he just said most of the billion-dollar brands you've seen were started by people that were just solving a problem for themselves. The Airbnb founders desperately needed to pay rent. And so a conference came into town. They blew up some air mattresses and rented their floor. And they made a bunch of money on it. And then they were like, well, maybe we can, So they were solving a problem for themselves of getting extra cash with the space in their house at a conference. And then they kind of like went around to conferences. Zuckerberg just wanted to be more socially included, and he figured out how to do that with technology. You've got, there's so many, Steve Wozniak, who created the Apple computer, just created the computer of his dreams. That's what he was doing. He's like, this is the computer I want. And then they built that in their garage. And so if you build a product that's just perfect for what you need, then you're likely building a product that's perfect for many, many people.
That's so interesting. I love that. Yeah.
And actually, the more often than not, the most successful companies come out of the user method, and that book goes through and proves it. But and so the user method, we're just looking at it and saying we're on YouTube, and we realize that when our kids are around, we can't watch the stuff we watch because there's just so much profanity and there's so many words that we don't want our kids saying.
Yeah.
And then with movies, we were like, same thing there. There's just stuff like that we don't want to expose our kids to. So we were like, what if we just create a system that just goes through and skips all the parts that we don't want? And it's like a parental control system, like a remote.
Yeah.
And this had been done in the TV Guardian kind of started this. And then there's a company called ClearPlay that did it pretty badly, but they tried it too.
Yeah.
And so we dove into it and realized that every single company that's ever tried this has been sued by the studios.
You knew beforehand already.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like 18 companies that had tried it, and every single one had been sued.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at it and we're like, do we do this? Do we try to go and figure out a way to fit? Because the question is can we skip content in streaming? We don't want to do DVDs and Blu-rays and broadcasts like TV Guardian and ClearPlay. We want to do streaming.
Okay.
And we figured out how to technically solve the problems. And we even figured out how to do it for Chromecast. And we went and built the Chromecast was brand new, and we built a system that would skip, but then it got blocked. Then we get cease and desist letters immediately from Google. And then like this chain of events where every single thing we do to try to filter is blocked. And it's always blocked for a different reason. Like it's not about skipping.
Yeah.
It's about some other thing. And but what it comes down to is they just are like, we'll do airline edits because we get to decide. But if you let the family decide what they're skipping, we're not okay with that.
It's like they were threatened by the fact that you were giving the power to the people in a sense.
That's right. Yeah. VidAngel is just a big remote. It's a high-powered remote. And our concept, I mean, our philosophy is if you have paid for the content and you have you have the content, you've bought it, then you have the right to stream it to yourself, filtered or skipped.
Rather than like saying, hey, I'm going to fast forward the content that I've already purchased because I don't want you guys watching this, it already does it for you in a sense.
Yes. And this is a hotly debated thing because there's a lot of artists that believe that this is not okay, right? They think that it's like their moral right to don't watch their content if you're not going to watch it the way we say. And it's like, yeah, that applies to a small group of people who want to do that. But as a whole, very few people go to the kind of restaurant where you have to eat exactly what they put in front of you.
That's true.
That's
true. Yeah.
That's exciting sometimes to go to like a really nice Michelin star restaurant in France and you just eat whatever they give you.
Yeah.
But that's not something you do on a daily basis.
No. Yeah.
And you only give like certain people that privilege.
Sure, absolutely.
So we got into this world. We probably wouldn't have gotten to the world if we'd realized how rough it was going to be.
Yeah.
And then it started growing very quickly. And in 2016, we got sued by Disney and Warner Brothers and 20th Century Fox. And they have they're spending tens of millions of dollars, estimated. The attorneys in that world estimate that that's the kind of money that they've put in. The irony here is that we showed them and we said, hey, look, we're buying your movies. And here's all the data. You're making more money with us than you would if we didn't exist. And they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. And so they go through.
What is their reason behind not caring? Like why are they so threatened by what you guys are doing?
Well, there's two different groups, I think. There's the artist group,
Yep.
and then there's Disney, who's a different animal. It was very confusing for us at first why Disney was the one who sued us. And then we realized, oh, they have the corner on family-friendly content.
Okay.
And if suddenly all other content becomes more family-friendly because skipping becomes a thing,
Okay.
that dilutes their market. So it may expand the whole film market, meaning it actually increases everybody's revenue. But if it becomes a really big thing, it could potentially dilute Disney's market.
I see.
And we think that's the financial incentive for why they're fighting so hard on this.
Okay.
Their narrative was, we're just pirates and we're trying to steal their money and we don't want to ask permission and yada, yada, yada. And that it's their choice. Our argument is every single person who's ever tried this has been sued. And it doesn't matter what they say the issue is, because they say it's all different kinds of stuff rather than addressing it on its nose. It's clear when we're working in our best faith to make this work and trying to negotiate and trying to get settlements, that in the end, the core issue is that they're fundamentally opposed to the concept of a family being able to choose what to skip and mute in their own home automatically. And so, and this is because we've gone through, I don't know how many systems now. I think we've gone through there's a whole bunch of systems. That changing the technology to match what the studios said. Previously, they said, we don't like the first technology because of this. And we change it to address that. We don't like that technology because of this. Then we change it to address that. And we've done that over and over and over again. And they just keep fighting. And there is no end to it. And we're now into this 3 or 4 years or something. And they're still just fighting tooth and nail on every single thing we come up with. And it doesn't matter if they get paid or not. The fundamental issue is, if you don't have permission, it doesn't matter if you paid us. If you don't have permission to skip that content from us, then you can't have it. And then it's permission that they don't give. That's the issue. Unless they're giving enough permission to create kind of a diversion, to pretend like they're solving the problem.
Yeah.
So it's complicated. It's messy. We've been fighting that battle. A lot of people who listen to this are going to say, I disagree with Jeff and he's just wrong. And there's other people that are agreeing with me, and it's fine. In the end, we'll figure out how to live together. But so VidAngel, we get that started. We go through this monster lawsuit. We get a judgment of $62.3 million for copyright infringement, which is it's the biggest copyright infringement ruling of its kind, judgment, meaning bigger than pirates, and these are for guys that made the studios money and tried to follow the law. And we're appealing that right now. But in addition to that, we have built a whole nother business on the side that's big enough that it doesn't, the $62.3 million is still just it's something that, maybe if we fail in our appeals, that we have to, in the worst case scenario, we pay that off. And best case scenario, we successfully appeal it. But so that's where that's at, the lawsuit. And now we're kind of moving into the next phase of our company.
Yeah, which is actually very, very exciting because you're creating your own content, right? And
that's right.
Your content is doing exceedingly well. I'll just say that for sure. It is unbelievable how well it's doing. I mean, let's talk first about Dry Bar, because that was an awesome thing, and then we'll get to other projects, but specifically The Chosen, which I'm really excited to talk about. But so how does Dry Bar come about?
We've always seen skipping as a step towards. It's one thing to remove the objectionable content out of your viewing, but it's a whole different level to be able to watch content you love and you don't really need to skip as much.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And so that's always been the goal. And we launched Dry Bar right after getting sued. And it took us 18 months, but the concept is that there's this, if you look at Jim Gaffigan, Brian Regan, previously Bill Cosby, not anymore, but you've got these Jerry Seinfeld, you got these monster comedians who they're some of the biggest brands in the business, and they're totally family friendly. They have a clean brand.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, and then you've got literally thousands of other comics across the blue brand world, the normal comedy world, the club world is what it's called. So, and the concept here is what if we create a way for comedians to get up on stage and we just say, hey, you do whatever you want on stage.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. But here's a list of everything that people are going to skip. Here's a list of words they skip. Here's a list of innuendos they skip. And you can decide what you want to take risks on. But if you don't perform well to the audience and they skip you a bunch, you'll get paid less.
Interesting. Okay.
Or in other words, if you're more aligned with the audience, you get paid more because you earn the money that the ones who are less aligned would have gotten.
Okay.
And so it's just a social lever to say, make content that the audience wants to see and that's on brand, and you'll get rewarded pretty handsomely for it. Mm-hmm. And so we started calling comedians and just telling them, look, you can do what you want. But if you just tweak your set a little bit, take out the F words, take out the swear words, take out the Lord's name in vain, tweak your innuendos, like one person changed something from, like, she had a joke about people sending her dick pics. And she just changed it to, people online when I'm dating, they keep sending me these inappropriate pictures. And everything else about her joke is actually appropriate. It's a really good way to go on this. But she just changed that one word, and then it works with our audience. Yeah. And so we have so then we just started getting them on stage in Provo at Dry Bar Comedy. Yeah, recording the specials, and now we've recorded like 250 plus specials.
I mean, it's an insane number,
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's exploded. Like, we've got I think we're over 2 billion views online. We have a larger social presence than Comedy Central Stand Up now.
That's unbelievable. Yeah.
And it's self-sustaining, and it's a huge business now. Yeah. And it's taken a huge team that's made it. I mean, it's a beautiful production team. These guys are passionate about stand-up. They're passionate about meeting customers where they want to be, and viewers. And Jeff Allen, one of our biggest comedians, that he blew up last year, got like 100 million views or something. He said going on Dry Bar Comedy now is like getting on Johnny Carson back in the day.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like a total life changer. My entire life is completely changed. Oh my God. And so that's where we started Dry Bar, and then it was like, okay, so now we have a series, and then we would put it inside the VidAngel app and put Dry Bar Comedy next to shows like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad or whatever that are also skipped in the app. Yeah. And just to see, will people actually choose our content
over something
over something that's significantly, like, that is known to be good. Yeah. Really good content. And they do. It competes head to head. The Dry Bar stuff competes head to head. And so we're like, okay, let's do our next series. Let's try something bigger budget, because Dry Bar's low budget. Yeah. You can do low budget comedy and it looks big budget. Yeah. But you can't do low budget, like, other types of content and make it look big budget. Well, I mean, there's a range, right?
There's a range.
And so, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I wasn't. I was just listening. I'm just listening.
Okay. Yeah. So the next question is how do we take this to a bigger show.
Yeah.
And we spent a year looking at different things, saying, what do we do? And we talked to you, you know, and we were, and then as we dive into projects, there's some where like, this is going to work once the platform is more mature. And then there's other ones that we're trying. Our goal was, how do we find the project that's going to lead like the charge, you know?
Because the thing was like, I loved everything about what you're doing. And I recognize that too. I said, you know what? There's certain things where certain projects might be really good, just not good yet.
That's right. Like, that's right. Until we get a little more mature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And once it's right, then it's like, all right, now it's go time, right? On certain things.
That's exactly right.
So yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, that was what I was thinking about, you know, because, you know, my whole decision to even come back to Utah and create content was I wanted to create more family-friendly content, more comedic stuff and things that were going to relate to people. But again, my problems was just like, how do I solve the distribution issue, or how do I solve the marketing issue? Because I still couldn't wrap my brain around it. So when we met with you, I was like, man, that this makes a lot of sense. But I also, as we started seeing, as we started seeing the timeline go and all these things happen, I recognized, I'm like, okay, this is still a great idea and it's still going to be awesome once everything has matured a little bit more.
Once the timing's right.
Yeah, once there's a huge audience that's here to watch VidAngel for their original content, as opposed to like, oh, I just want to skip stuff, you know?
That's right. That's right.
So,
yeah. And we were searching for this project. Yeah. And then Matthew Faraci, who does our press stuff, you know Matthew.
Yeah, he's great.
So he's down in LA, and he sends me this thing, and he sent me an email in 2017, August. I was just looking at it last night, like August 3rd or something, August 5th, 2017, sends me an email, and it just says short film, and it has a Vimeo link in it. You know how Matthew is.
Of course.
Unless he calls you, you don't get any information.
You're like, do it. And he's like, this guy, go. And I'm like, what's happening? What have you been doing?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I open it up and I start watching it, and there's this little shepherd that's like struggling, and he's a handicap, and he's got a hurt leg, and he's got this little sheep with him, and then I realized, like, halfway through the film, I'm like, oh, this is a Christmas show.
Yeah.
I had no idea, because Matthew didn't give me that context.
Yeah.
And then I finish it, and I'm just like totally blown away. And I was like, how much did this thing cost to make? And it was only like $80,000 or something.
Yeah.
And Matthew said, I can connect you with the director. And I said, well, because we'd already been thinking about how to launch a platform.
Yeah.
But when I saw this show, it was like everything just came together. It was like all so clear. This should be a TV series. This can be a pilot, which it wasn't built to be. I need to call Matthew and see if the guy's willing to make a TV series out of it. Mm-hmm. Call the guy, Dallas Jenkins.
Yep.
And we started talking, and Matthew warned me he doesn't really like the concept of skipping stuff in movies.
Yeah.
Because he's a Hollywood guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. And then I found out he's also like strong evangelical. Mm-hmm. And we're Latter-day Saints. So there's some history there.
Yeah, there's a lot of
And so I'm like, okay. And we're being sued by Disney.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy to, as part of this process, which we're close to getting out of right now.
If this was in terms of like a guy and a girl dating, it would already be like, all right, don't even do on the first date. You know, it's it's done. You know.
So I'm sitting there like, Neil, I need to call this guy. At first, I told Neil, I said, we need to this is our show to launch VidAngel Studios.
Okay.
And Neil said, no, Bible shows are for churches to launch, not companies. That doesn't, because we're not going to go make money off of scriptural stuff. That doesn't make any sense. And he's pretty adamantly opposed, and he watches it, and he gets done watching it, and he just looked up at me, and he's like, this is why we made VidAngel.
And, yeah, it's amazing.
And so I call the director, Dallas Jenkins, and I was like, tell me about the show that you've been thinking of down this vein, down this line. And he tells me about it. And I was just thinking the whole time, I was like, how do I convince this guy that he should work with guys that are being sued by the biggest studios in Hollywood?
Yeah.
About to file Chapter 11.
Yeah.
Latter-day Saints, they conflict on a doctrinal basis with at least evangelicals think they conflict with us. We don't feel the same way back as much, but and we do skipping of content, which he hates.
Yeah.
Like everything about this is not supposed to work.
Not a good idea. Yeah.
Not a good idea.
Yeah.
So I let out with Harmon Brothers, talked about poopery and all, that kind of stuff. And I didn't know everything that had been happening in his life, but basically God had been preparing both of the groups to work together.
Yeah. I remember hearing Dallas's story because he was speaking at the LDS Film Festival of all places, right?
yeah.
And I remember him telling me just telling all of us how he had done the resurrection of Gavin Stone and all these things, and he thought his career was going to go on a certain trajectory, and everything got pulled out from underneath him. And he's like, what is happening in my life? And so it's just very how things kind of align like that.
Yeah. And he had some really interesting experiences, and we had really interesting experiences that pulled these two groups that just normally wouldn't work together. And we felt God telling us to do this. And we felt, we didn't know if it'd be successful or not, but this was clearly the right path. It wasn't a wrong path to move on, is one way to put it. And so he flew out with his wife, and we met with them and they're amazing. And somehow they decided, let's go for it. And that's a miracle in and of itself. Like that's miraculous. And it's the show concept is a show on a multi-season series on the life of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And Neil and my hypothesis was, if this director can take $80,000 and tell a story as good as The Shepherd with that tiny budget and no money, like the single best nativity we've ever seen, it blows away every nativity. Then from a storytelling standpoint, it's not the best budget, not by a long shot. But it's just you're just immersed, and you don't care that everything looks low budget.
Well, do you remember you showed me that pilot? I remember watching it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't done. I remember I don't know if the music was there or it wasn't colored, or
there were some music problems.
There were issues. I remember it was
it was the angel scene. The music of the angel scene had not been rebuilt yet.
Yeah. So things weren't completely finished. And yet I remember being like, dude, that was so good. Like, it was just so real. And so it was and I remember thinking man, I wish the LDS church could make stuff like this, I say that, I was just kidding, but you know what I mean? It was just it was so real, and it was so honest, and I just loved it. It was awesome. And
it was phenomenal. And so the hypothesis was, if he can do that with that budget, then we give him a decent budget, doesn't have to be huge, he'll be able to make a TV series that is kick butt. And so we took that hypothesis and we ran with it. And then we spent the next 2 years prepping and building and just lifting. And it is a hard lift to get something off the ground. But finally we raised over $10 million with 19,000 investors from around the world. And then we built, then they went and filmed a show. They produced it in Texas. They found a set there. Some lady had built an entire recreation of Capernaum village in Texas. So the first century Capernaum was built there. And so we went and asked her if we could use their set. And that's where the whole first season is shot, in this little retrofitted Capernaum village that wasn't built for a film set. And then we launched it, And the next big question is how do we distribute it once it's there? Because right now, VidAngel was half shut down, not working very well. We're retooling VidAngel. We're just surviving. Drybar is kind of in its own app, in its own world, and it's not. So the system we had initially thought we were going to launch on, which was VidAngel with like a Netflix model, just had been pulled out from underneath us.
Yeah.
So all of our plans of how we thought we were going to distribute are ruined, and we're ready to launch this show, and we don't have a model to launch it. And so we start testing like VOD stuff in April of last year with the first 4 episodes, because they were done a little bit early, pre-releasing the first 4 episodes. And we're just testing and testing. And if you talk to any member of my team, they say that was like the most miserable period of their entire careers.
Well, dude, do you remember NRB? Remember NRB? And we were like promoting the heck out of each other. We're like, all right, you guys gotta go. I remember walking around, like grabbing people. I wasn't even a part of the shows. I'm like, dude, you guys gotta come check out the shows. And that little tiny little booth, that little tiny little theater.
And people are like, what? The what?
because what was it? The Kingdom Studios had like done like that huge presentation with the Urban Brothers.
And we got like a little tiny room.
And we had like this tiny little thing. And I remember our little VR setup was like right next to it, you know? And it was just like, It was so insane. But we were like, all right, let's just keep getting people to come check it out, I guess.
Yeah. And we actually made some really good connections at that event. Yeah. But so we're just getting just like pennies, you know, to where what we need. And we're testing model after model, testing how to, if we let people watch the first episode, will they pay for the next ones? If we let them watch the first 2, will they pay for more? And we're just testing all the numbers and looking how many people watch through, how many minutes do they watch, where do they drop off, what's happening. Everybody's complaining. How do I watch it on my TV? How do I watch it? Because we just had it on the web at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's just this giant mess. And then we just realized that everybody was asking, how do I get this to other people once they watched it? Because they loved it. The people are watching it, but they're like, how do we share it? And they would buy DVDs and Blu-rays and whatever. And it was very traditional at the time. And then I don't remember the details of the conversation, but we were in a small group, and this concept of pay it forward came up between our team. And it clicked for me pretty fast. And I think it clicked for everybody else at the same time. If I took credit for it, I would be unfair, because it was this just huge effort from a large group. I was just kind of leading that team. And then we were like, let's just let people watch it for free. And then at the beginning of the episode, we show this person from, Jeff Harmon from Provo, Utah, or Lehigh, Utah, paid for this episode for you. And then you can keep watching or pay it forward. And then they just go in and they watch the whole episode for free. And at the end, they can watch the next episode for free. And each time it shows who paid for their episode.
Very interesting. And how much was an episode?
So the way we did it is we set it up to where you watch for free, and then if you pay, the minimum is $14.99.
Okay.
And that gets that you own season 1 if you pay $14.99 forward. Okay. And you're paying it forward 10 episodes for other people. So a little over 1 season for other people around the world.
Okay, so $15 basically gets you the whole season.
The whole season, which is really cheap.
Super cheap, yeah.
Yeah, but you can pay forward more, and you can pay forward like $50. And you get like you get more episodes for other people around the world. You don't get more stuff yourself, but you get more episodes
for other people to see. Wow, okay.
And you can pay for it up to like $10,000.
Has anyone done that?
Yeah, lots of people have.
Wow, that's amazing.
Pay for 12,000 episodes around the world.
Yeah.
And so we build out its own app, The Chosen in its own app, and its own ecosystem. And we make it to where it can send to your TV, it can send to any device. And that's kind of new. And so we're just slowly knocking off problems.
Yeah.
And then we hit Thanksgiving of this year, and we launched the Pay It Forward system. And we realized this works better than all the other models we've tried.
I had no idea that that's how you guys were distributing it. Like I had no
Yeah.
clue.
So anybody in the world
Yeah.
gets on the app and they start watching, and it says, this person in this country paid for this episode for you. And then when you're done watching the season, it says, would you, eight people paid for your season.
Yeah.
Would you like to send them a thank you note? And then you type in and say, hey, thank you. And I just got a thank you this morning from someone in the UK that watched, and they said, thank you so much for paying these forward for me. And they said, my life has been changed forever.
Oh my gosh. I'm getting the chills, dude. That's unbelievable. Yeah. That's unbelievable.
So I got that message and the 8 other people that paid for that person, because it was 8 episodes. And then I can see on my phone, and since I'm on the phone, I can't show you my phone, but you go scroll down and you can just see your 10 people that you paid forward. And it's like, this person from Brazil watched episode 5. This person from China watched episode 2. This person from Iran watched this. It's been downloaded. So this is the first app that's been launched in every single country on earth at the exact same time simultaneously with a TV series. It's never been done.
Wow.
And so, and what's really interesting here is this is the first TV series, this big budget. This TV series has a legit budget. Mm-hmm. It's the first TV series that I'm aware of in the last, since TV series got big, right? Mm-hmm. That has not been tied up with a whole bunch of studio contracts. And it has full freedom. We had full freedom to just do whatever we wanted to experiment on models. So we were able to launch worldwide. We're able to experiment with pay it forward models. You could never do that because of all the contracts you had. And so we had this opportunity with this series that's totally open.
Yeah.
And able to experiment and try something completely different from anything that's ever been tried before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what's happened is we've had millions of people download it from all over the world. I think it's like 18 million episodes have been viewed now.
Wow. Wow.
And it's already on track to pay for season 2. The show is. Yeah. We are ranked in the over Easter weekend and today, I think we're ranked number 14 in the App Store under entertainment apps. And
the rating for the actual show itself is
so you can tell that.
Okay, I have to say it because it's unbelievable.
Nobody believes it. Nobody's going to believe it. They're not going to believe it.
No one's going to believe it. But IMDb, I saw it 9.9. Right? Is that something like that?
That's right.
And
9.9.
100%. Like
how many reviews do we have on IMDb?
Oh my gosh, I haven't even looked at that. How many reviews were there?
We have over 4,700 reviews.
4,700 reviews.
There is no show that has ever had a 9.9 of that many reviews ever that I'm aware of. And
dude, it is.
Now we don't have enough reviews yet to rank in their top listings. I think you have to get they have 2 different numbers. They have one that says 5,000 reviews, and they have another number that says 25,000.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we have to get to 25,000 or 5,000, but eventually we'll be ranked in the top TV shows of all time. And I think that this show will be ranked the number 1 highest rated TV series of all time.
Dude.
Because the highest one right now is Planet Earth 2 with 9.5.
Yeah. Well.
So, but that has blown our minds. Like, we did not expect for this show to be that way, right?
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't expect it to be that well loved. And then we're 100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now with critics.
We talked about this years ago when we were talking about this is okay. I remember September 2017. September 2017 was when we first met with you guys.
Yep.
And I remember you were telling me about The Chosen, or we didn't know it was The Chosen. It was called The Shepherd or something back then, right?
Yep.
And I remember you were telling me I'm really excited about this show. I think it's gonna be good. That was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Right now I'm sitting here and I'm just like, dude, is Jeff a freaking prophet or what is going on? Because
no.
Well, the thing though that blows my mind, that's just been so awesome is, okay, you guys, you and Dallas, before joining.
Well, it's Dallas, Daryl. It's a huge team.
Yeah, this is huge. Okay, Daryl Eves.
You're interfacing with me and Dallas.
Yeah.
but it's a gigantic team. Don't
Gigantic team.
If you give us the credit, that's just totally unfair to the thousands and tens of thousands of hours. But
you're absolutely right. Yeah. So I'm just specifically saying you and Dallas because that's just who we've talked about. But there's so many other people like Daryl Eves, Ricky Ray Butler, Matthew Faraci. There's so many, countless people. But I just remember like the struggle that VidAngel was kind of going through, the struggle that Dallas was going through, you know, having that thing to like saying, all right, you know what, let's join forces, let's work together. Who knows what's going to happen? And you created something that is completely out of the studio model. And I keep thinking, what
every element is, there's nothing that's the same.
Studio model, you know, everything's out of the studio model. And I think, what if, who knows what would have happened if Dallas went with the studio model and everything worked out that way. I mean, things could still be great for him or whatnot, but it's just interesting to me to see how everything about this is so unorthodox, you know?
Yeah.
Like
every single element from a TV series having its own app to the way you pay for it and the way you watch it. It's just free to watch. Yeah. And then you go pay it forward. Yeah. To the way we raise the money from 19,000 people in crowdfunding to the way we're raising money for the next series, the next shows, to the way, I mean, every single element is totally just different than anything you've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And
it seems to me that, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, not only is it different from the way it's been done before, you literally are creating your own path based off of inspiration. Because you're faced with like these like insane problems. You're like, crap, well now we made the show, now how do we distribute it, you know? And now how do we do this? Hi.
Hey. Sorry, this is she just made Manuela. Okay, cool. That's awesome. She's learning to sew.
Oh, fantastic. Well, good job. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just amazed because everything was always done out of something that's completely,
it's like, and it's not even necessarily all inspiration. I think a lot of it has been out of God, like forcing us into a corner.
Yeah.
Like he just like, no, I'm going to make it to where all the wrong paths don't work at all. And your only way out is through this little hole down in the corner that you didn't see until I smashed you down into this little miserable corner.
Well, you know what? I think that just that whole thing right there, if we can kind of shift the discussion for just a little bit, makes me think about like the corner that we're all facing right now, right? With circumstances that the whole world is facing in, you know, being under quarantine with COVID. And we're all kind of smashed in this corner and trying to figure out, okay, how does life carry on from here? And we're facing uncertainty, like a tremendous amount of uncertainty. And I think honestly, like all the uncertainty you guys have faced has like prepped you for this threat that's been kind of going on right now, where you're like, okay, how do we move forward? Like, what do we need to do as a society, as a people to say, okay, how do we thrive again? So,
yes. Well, I mean, there's been some benefits that have come out of COVID. Like doctors are now allowed, our 2-year-old broke her arm in the middle of the quarantine at kind of the height of the hysteria.
Yeah.
And so we were freaking out because we're like, we're gonna have to go to the hospital. It was a Sunday night. She jumped off the couch and broke her arm. And
oh no.
And so we're able to actually do a FaceTime with a doctor now. That was not legal before COVID.
Wow. Okay.
Like there are doctors are allowed to work over borders, and so there's a whole bunch of regulations that were supposed to protect us that have been removed because we realized they're actually hurting us as soon as this emergency happened.
Yeah.
So I think there's some good things coming out of it. I think there's maybe more worse things, but there are a few good things coming out of the way. And then like the chosen model is really powerful, a good thing. And but I think, you're right. God puts us in the corners so that we kind of get to the point where we're saying to where we have no choice but just to say, hey, I don't control this world, you know, you do, and you have to save me. I'm not to save myself.
Yeah.
Well, I can, work to save myself, but in the end, I don't have control over everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And by work to save myself, I'm talking about physically save myself.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean,
For the evangelicals who might be watching, I don't believe you work to be saved.
yeah. Thanks for the clarification. Well, here's the thing. And I always think about this. Our bodies are made up of like what, trillions and trillions of cells, and all these little things that are going on inside of us that we have absolutely no control over, right? And yet they do their thing so that we can thrive and live. And if any of those things kind of mess up, we're dead, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I've always been of the mindset of like, hey, it'd be good to be grateful for a higher power, whatever you want to believe. But for me, it's, God, and do the things that I know I can do on my own and everything. But at the end of the day, especially in this circumstance, it is best to say, okay, I can do what I can do, and then I got to leave the rest up to God and to have Him help get out of the corner that we're in, because it's a tough spot that we're in. And but I also think like I've seen so much more compassion with people because of everything that's going on, and it's great because humanity tends to show their true colors, and from a lot of what I've seen, that those true colors are pretty positive, and there's been a lot of hope and stuff, and people they're getting the fact that, hey, we're all in this painful place. We can get out together. So yeah, it's
great.
Anyway, well, man, Jeff, I mean, I could seriously sit and talk to you for hours. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Your mind is so brilliant, but thanks, man. I'm really excited for what you guys are doing and for the Chosen. I think it's so fantastic. I'm excited. I mean, this is like me being selfish and hopeful, but I'm hoping to maybe get a part on the show one of these days. I've been with Dallas
Sure.
about it, and it's been awesome. But anyway, you're great. Thank you for taking the time. Do you have any last things you'd like to kind of share or talk about before we wrap things up?
Well, I think once VidAngel and the Chosen stories are written, it will be very hard for somebody to read it and go, there wasn't divine intervention.
Yeah.
That's one thing I look back and start seeing, because I'm barely scratching the surface of everything that's happened to keep us alive. Yeah. And there's been some really, really dark times, and there's been some really amazing, miraculous moments, and it's been an incredible experience, and so we're doing our best, but there's I feel like we've received a lot of help in getting to where this is at, and so in a time of just kind of getting back to where credit should go. That's all. Yeah. I think you're a good man, Jeff. You're very you're very ever since I've known you, I've always just known you to be like a very like just humble and gracious person to everybody. You've given me tons of time, and I just think that like we're all in this fight together, right? And and I'm glad that truly seeing your story, it's been an inspiration just to kind of observe from the outside some of the things that you guys have been going through, and then to see how you've come through it has been awesome. And so, thank you. Yeah. Well, thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate you taking the time, and well, I'm excited to see what happens. And everyone, if you have not seen The Chosen yet, please go watch The Chosen. It is amazing, and it's a great show to watch to uplift you and inspire you. So thanks again, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening to the Lemonade Stand podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use to be alerted when we release new episodes. We'd also love to hear your feedback in the reviews, and if you or someone you know has an awesome Lemonade Stand story, please reach out to us on social media and let us know. Thanks so much, and have a great day.